Was there a time at JDS when you guys kind of sat down as a board or an executive team and said, all right, we really need to start putting resources into developing our ESG program? Is there a time that became a real priority that, a light bulb went on and said, this is something that's going to be big for this industry?
Yeah. So two parts to that. So, ESG to me is like a language. It's like Spanish, because before ESG, there was corporate social responsibility, CSR. Mm-hmm. And before that, there's environmental safety and security. That was an acronym that was tossed around in early days. It was just do the right thing. There was, be safe, don't waste stuff, reclaim your equipment or materials.
Yep.
So there was always that in the business, because as miners, we're pretty cheap. We're trying to be thrifty, and we kind of got it figured out. But we started getting more and more people in our business to help us brand our message. But we got behind. We got way behind in the last 10 years in the sort of the internet age. And so ESG comes along and gives us a new brand. It's a new language that we already were doing it. We're doing it in English. Now we're doing it in a foreign language called ESG. So we needed to so rather than sitting around as a group, as a board, because we don't have one, we don't have a board. We have alignment. We sit down and we go, hey, during COVID, there's a little bit of a pause here. We got a little bit of time to think. Let's figure out how to get our conversion factor to ESG. So let's look at what we do and help our customers understand that we are already doing that, but let us quantify and identify and show our customers, in particular people like CN or Newmont or Foran Mining or Taseko, these people that are publishing these ESG reports, and they're using words that are quite attractive to activist investors. But then they need the backup to that. They need the documentation that says they're really doing it. Well, we've been doing it. So what we sat around figuring out was, okay, we need to get this information to our customers so that we can support what they're saying. They need to have iron in their words. They speak the words. They're laudable. Our job is to deliver the product behind that. And that's really what we actually took advantage of the COVID kind of timeline to bolster our team to make that happen.
And so what do you mean by deliver the product behind that? Do you mean help them execute on these plans and meet this criteria they're perhaps setting?
Right. So let's say somebody wants to pontificate in their quarterly report that they're doing some things to reduce their GHG, and they're doing it for all the good reasons, because it's required now in the marketplace. They need to report that. It's just good business to use less energy. And to pollute less. And they might say, well, we're going to do it because we're going to invest some money into planting trees somewhere and do some offsets. Well, I'd come along and I'd say, you know what, actually, we think we can actually change the way you run your system so you use less horsepower, burn less energy, and reduce your GHG. And you're actually able to do that with the tools that you have in place. You don't have to go external and plant trees in Brazil or somewhere else. We can actually do that, enhance your business profitability, and you can still report that goodness, the gain, and you can get the gain in financial, and you can get the gain in motivation of people going, actually, this ESG thing, it's not just another layer of bureaucracy on us. It's just asking us to communicate with the rest of the world what we're doing and what we need to do. So it's a focus effort. And that's where we come in. As engineers, we go and we say, yeah, the operating characteristics can change. We can do things differently. And whether it's battery locomotives that were used in the start of my career and phased out with scoop trams and ramps and things like that, we're going back to battery. It's nothing new. We're going back to what we always knew how to do. We just now maybe have to take advantage of our mine planning and designing to figure out different ways to incorporate those systems into our mindset and our mine development. So whether it's changing a mine plan or changing an equipment type or changing an energy source to improve the economics, which ultimately yields those ESG numbers and statements that people are putting out there. So you see that happening here, and you can look at Newmont's, I think it's the Borden mine and all battery mine and things like that, and Foran Mining to make sure they produce the copper and zinc that are required for the new battery sort of world, and they want to go battery in their underground mine. Well, let's help them with that design and bring them in really efficient execution of their words that they're putting out there.
You know, it seems to me a lot of the changes going on in mining right now are also being driven from the top down, the large investors and capital allocators, the pension plans and university endowments and the big funds that are trickling money down into the space are focusing more and more on ESG. Does that factor into your business at all? Is that something you guys are seeing at JDS on the actual building and construction side?
Absolutely. And I just had to look at my notes here, but there's a lady named Laureen Taylor Wolfe, and I think she's Impactive Investments, and she's made it her sort of mission to push the ESG thing out there. And again, she represents a bunch of money. And so all mines, they need money. They need three types of capital: financial capital, intellectual capital, and trust capital. And of course, the trust capital is one of the most important, but the hardest to get. But the financial capital now is being told, as you can imagine, whether it's endowments and universities or people saying, hey, we're not going to push our money into these businesses unless they make change. Sometimes they say we're not going to put it in at all, which is odd. If people are saying, hey, we're not going to invest in energy, in oil energy, we're still needing it. We're not getting off it anytime soon. So that part will disregard the sort of far, the binary types that say we're not doing it at all. But we'll go to those people that are saying we need to see positive change in the way people address these issues. Mm-hmm. And we'll work for those people. We'll put our hand up to say, hey, actually, we can find the solution that you're going to like my example of getting the sulfur out of heavy oil. Look, if you want to do something about pollution, I think we got a solution that's not dilution. We're going to show you an investment opportunity that makes a lot of money, saves a lot of money, and does a huge benefit to the disproportional benefit to the environment.
Here is that we are currently in the hype stage of what I would call the energy revolution, where the whole world has decided basically that we're going to be moving off of fossil fuels and moving to green energy, and there's obviously a lot of money going into anything anyone sees as forwarding that goal. I mean, look at Tesla is the best example of that.
Is it?
I think it's the best example of capital pouring into a stock that people think believe that will fix these problems.
Right.
I don't think it's the best solution to actually fixing those problems. And that's what the point I'm getting at is that I think after the hype stage, there's going to have to be a realism stage and say, people are going to say, shit, well, owning electric car manufacturers doesn't really get the job done. Those things need copper, they need nickel, they need lithium. They need the energy to be generated in a way, a bunch of coal power plants, fueling Teslas doesn't make much difference, right? So,
and the world's still running 55% on coal. So, where's that coming from? So that's exactly my point. Just like the Britannia mine example, we don't have to wait 45 years to figure out what we need to do now. We know we've got technology that we can impart into the production of energy. We just need people to be aware. We need parents to tell their kids it's just not a Tesla. Let's look at this thing and let's look at where the energy comes from. But people have to have the intellectual fortitude, so to speak, to investigate further and not just accept what got pushed out on the internet or on TV. So, or on a podcast, we need to actually dig deeper into these things. We need to challenge people. We need to have people that go through and say, okay, but there is going to be impacts and benefits. Everything has a cost. And so, but we're always trying to get better. And we have as citizens, we live longer, the air is cleaner, the water's cleaner, et cetera. So we have to call bullshit on some of the stuff that's being pumped out there from our governments and thought leaders, or what people would term thought leaders. So that's the focus, and that's really what our business is we go to people and we say, again, we're not saying that we're the expert in everything, but we know we need to tunnel in on a lot of stuff to dispel the common thoughts. And by the way, energy production in Canada is one of the lowest GHGs. People would say, how do you say that? Well, you got to look at the total cycle. We don't transport our energy that we make here in Alberta across the ocean and back again, say from Saudi or Russia or anywhere else. We send it by pipeline typically, or train. to our nearest neighbor who's our biggest consumer of our product. And so we don't have, as I mentioned, the issue with pollution on the ships going out and coming back. So when you look at the total life cycle, if people would take the time and want to follow you through that, and they actually put down their guard, and if you want to just take the time and sit down and we can go through this. And if you have some ideas on or thoughts of what you didn't like, talk to me and we'll go through them and we'll see if we can run those things to ground. And we do that. As Canadians, we've done that for a long time. We export this knowledge around the world quietly, but we don't celebrate it good enough, and we don't have representation to promote it good enough at our political level or in our business level.
Do you see within the mining industry some low-hanging fruit that if the capital was invested there that maybe isn't getting the money it deserves, you could see a really big impact on this? I mean, the thing that jumps out to me, of course, and this is peripherally related to the mining industry, but is nuclear power. I think nuclear power is the next logical step in energy, that we need a lot more of it than we're currently seeing. But is there, in your experience, anything you see that you think, well, if you want to make a big impact, you got to invest some dollars here? Yeah,
good one. And again, back to the Britannia mines. Nuclear energy, 1931, Great Bear Lake in the Northwest Territories, that's where the uranium started with in Canada, and then into Uranium City in Athabasca, and then further into Ontario. But so this isn't new. We were there. We were pioneers in the initial days into the nuclear energy research, including the CANDU reactor that was Canadian deuterium uranium reactor that was designed and exported around the world. And then we got off of that. We got off of nuclear. Nuclear became a bad thing when I was a kid growing up here in Vancouver. So there was a stigma, so people kind of backed away from that. But, again, good companies like Cameco continued on and produced and sent nuclear power around the world, or our product around the world. So it's not a novel idea. It's just like we need to look backwards to go forwards. There's some good things that we did here. We should celebrate, and we should re-lift up again and inspire our young people to dig in. So there is some low-hanging fruit. It's not like there's a lot of hard work that we've got to reinvent something here. We just actually have to pick up where we left off. We've had a gap. We've had a winter.
Well, myself, I'm invested in several companies exploring BC porphyry coppers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, they're a little lower grade than other places in the world, but if you want clean metal, there's nowhere better in the world than British Columbia. It's going to be totally powered almost by hydroelectric power. It's going to have the highest work and safety, environmental standards. It's going to employ Indigenous peoples, First Nations. And that's, to me, getting those up and producing and providing copper across North America is one of the best impacts you could have. But
absolutely.
So when to a mine in the Congo or in Mongolia.
Exactly.
Right?
When you think about it, everything has a balance sheet. And you have to put on that balance sheet the E, S, and G. And if we're fully on board with that, let's be honest and get through the details of those things. And as you mentioned, in British Columbia, phenomenal copper endowment that we have here, averaging about 0.45 is probably the best that we can get out of a average big copper mine in British Columbia. And by the way, the grades in the world are kind of coming down to that number. So once again, we're going to be back in vogue here in the open pit copper, or now low grade but underground bulk copper producers. So people would say, we don't like those big open pits and the ARD that comes out of the waste rock and things like that, and the disturbances. Great. Take a good example being the Afton mine up there in Kamloops, which is New Gold that owns that. It used to be Teck Mine. It used to be an open pit mine with a smelter there.
Yeah.
And today, which we work there, and we have about 80 folks working there, so I'm a little bit biased. They're a great customer. They're phenomenal people. But that's a bulk block caving operation that mines copper there for less than $10 a ton, which is pretty good for an underground operation. And so they took the chance, the capital, to build this thing out to be a modern, effective, low energy, low GHG producer. They use the natural qualities of the rock to break as a block cave, so no drilling or blasting for the ore itself. It caves, it comes down by gravity and gets picked up with 3 trucks loaded onto a conveyor, short haul, 3 trucks, that's it, to move 15,000+ tons a day on a conveyor up a ramp by electricity into a mill. So electrification, gravity, less hydrocarbon, less blasting products, things like that. And it's doing a hell of a job. Now the life cycle of that mine, originally small underground mine, then a Teck open pit mine, and then now a large underground efficient operation, It just keeps getting better and better. This project that the New Gold does, and they're on the phase C of it, so the third phase of their block caving, it continues to get better and better and better with respect to hitting those metrics on not just profitability, but the ESGs. Those are the things that we need to start to explain to people. Don't be afraid of what you saw.
Yeah.
Because just because you saw it today doesn't mean it's going to look like that in the future.
Yeah.
We as Canadians can get past that. We need to get past it. It starts at home, parents, kids. You know, a little bit of a sniffle, get back out there, get on the field.